Hello and welcome back to Pinstripe Pulse. Two series in, Yankees win two series against the Giants and the Phillies. We are 4-2, and a lot's going on in Yankee land early. Let's talk about it.
Keep racking up those 2 out of 3s.
Welcome back to Pinstripe Pulse. My name is Liam. I'm joined as always by Jake. Jake, how you doing on this misty Wednesday? Is it? Yeah.
We're getting like very mixed signals from this weather because yesterday I was out with Cats and a few other guys, the pro guys again doing live ABs, and it was 70, 75 on the field, and it felt like a summer day. And one of the guys asked, like, do you think this is what it's going to be like for the next, for the rest of the spring, essentially? And I said, yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident. And then, of course, today comes around and it's misty and like 52 with a nice little brisk airflow to it. But can't complain otherwise. How about you?
Yeah, feeling kind of gloomy. We were saying it off air before. Yankees had a Yankees had a nice win today on our recording day, but Barcelona just lost a very tough match to Real Madrid, and I'm a big fan of Barcelona. So there goes our Copa del Rey contention for the year. But we have La Liga solidified a few weeks ago, I think. So yeah, feeling a little down, but I mean the Yankees got me feeling up. We saw some positive signs today, a good outing from Cole. And we have two series to talk about. And where to begin? You wanna start going over that Giants series?
Yeah, so well, we kind of recapped game one a little bit, right? How because we were at opening day, so we got to see Garrett Cole cook, and he looked fantastic. 6 innings, 11 strikeouts, shutout, what, 2 hits and maybe 2 walks, I want to say, something like that. So he looked excellent. The offense, the first few games in a row, was scoring no less than 5 runs a game, which I liked to see right off the bat. It showed that the bats were kind of live, despite there being quite a few strikeouts in game one. I think that Logan Webb got us for 12 Ks that first game, despite being outdueled by Cole ultimately. But the bats looked pretty solid from day one. Glaber has been out of his mind since the opening day, essentially. He's been playing as well as you can ask him to play. Um, you would hope to see that maybe Oswaldo Cabrera kind of kicks into overdrive soon or starts to at least become a productive hitter because we are really starting to see Aaron Hicks falter at the plate. That has been quite evident within the first week of the season. It just looks like he is defeated at this point. Every time he goes up there, it's either weak contact or a strikeout. The Boo Birds were out in Overblast. We can hear it on the TV monitor. It's not fun. It's not pretty. I can't imagine what it's like at the stadium because we didn't get to see, well, I didn't get to see him. I know that you went to what, game two or game three?
I went to game four, the first game
Okay.
against the Phillies.
Gotcha. So yeah, like
They
did
were
he
loud.
yeah.
And that was his debut. And it was
Mhm.
after his second at bat. He just had like a tough pop out and he heard it. He heard it all the way back to the bench. Came through very strong.
Yeah, and I realistically don't see how the Yankees can continue to let this happen throughout the entirety of the season. Otherwise, this is going to be an issue that just lingers into the trenches of the summer. And that's when you need the team's chemistry and the on the inside to be as dynamite as possible. So I'm definitely a little bit concerned about that situation. A few other guys that are off to a slow start right now, or one in particular is Josh Donaldson, despite getting that home run. What was it, opening day? Um, he has, or I guess it was game two. He has just looked not great at the plate. He's kind of getting back into that crouch stance a little bit. It's very subtle, but it's like his knees are a little bit more bent than he was during spring training. So hopefully that's not him reverting back to his old ways of last season. He also in this series pulled up and it looked like he might have pulled his hamstring. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But I'm curious to think what you've seen out of the fielders in these first two series.
Yeah, it was an interesting first two series for sure. I mean, I think we see that the cream of the crop on our team is starting to rise, and it's really just through 6 games the stats are kind of as expected or as you would hope, really, from players at the top level. Judge looks really good. DJ looks like he has his legs under him through these first 2 series. Rizzo again is showing really good signs, and and then the bottom of our order has been pretty weak. Ultimately, I think Anthony Volpe would be getting more talk, maybe about his struggles, which I think are undeserved because it's 6 games and he's debuting in the major leagues. But his poor numbers are not really popping off the page because you have guys like Hicks and Donaldson who are also there in the lineup with their 400, 500 OPS, which means nothing through 6 games when we're looking at a sample. Like, we're really looking at form. And I think these games you can see the form of Hicks and Donaldson are both kind of out the window. And the Yankees have fully pushed the needle on IKF being a utility man, being the backup center fielder. So he's not in there as much, even though he's yet to record a hit on the year. Yeah, it's been tough. I mean, yeah, it's been tough to see some of those guys, but I really love the way that a lot of our hitters are seeming loose and in control at the plate. Like Stanton's having, you know, an okay start, but he seems comfortable and confident. He's not completely off the mark, which sometimes he can have 2 to 3 week stretches in which he's like very much off of it. And we saw him hit that monster home run on Sunday, which I don't think I've ever seen a ball hit up there in Yankee Stadium. Um, but yeah, I like what I see from the hitting and also from the pitching, honestly. It's been a strange 2 series in that we had outstanding performances on the pitching side in both games 1 and 3 of each series, sandwiched by a really weird pitching path in both game twos, which we let down. And I think maybe we jump in there. You want to jump into game 2 of the Giants series and do like I'll walk through a quick recap of that.
Yeah, let's do a quick recap. I gotta admit that I didn't see a lot of that game. I only got to watch the recaps because we were actually playing at the same time as that game. But from what I did see, it didn't look like Clark Schmidt was all that sharp with his stuff. I think the velo might have been down a little bit, so that was tough. And it also seems like they had a decent amount of fight. Like, they kept on coming back. And I remember Rizzo hit that double to tie it up. I think it was like the 5th or 6th inning to make it 3-3. And it kind of felt like they were going to be able to creep back into it and win the game. But I don't know. It just seemed like there might have been a little bit of a slight implosion from the bullpen. And there were a few weak contact induced plays that led to 2 runs ultimately against Mike King. And Mike King's stuff, like moving forward into the second series as well, was down a little bit in game 2, which is a little concerning. But I'm also not that shocked because it is his first time really getting ramped up to face everyday, players, or like be an everyday reliever after such a traumatic injury to his elbow. I'm not concerned about it. I don't think he's injured, but Boone did allude he might have a little bit of dead arm, which is normal for someone coming back. So I think that he'll be able to work his way back. And I mean, we have plenty of other weapons in the bullpen, so I'll give him a full failed mark for that game, just because a lot of it was soft contact, and there was that one soft blooper to Volpe that he kind of handcuffed himself on. It looked like he got caught in the dirt a little bit. But he took full accountability for it and immediately said, like, that's my bad. It's going to keep me up at night. So it's
Yeah.
everything you would expect and hope for out of a young budding shortstop.
Yeah, I think Clark looked really pedestrian. And we saw this Giants lineup really struggle to do anything in both games 1 and game 3. One of those was against Garrett Cole, which you understand, and one of those was against a rookie, Johnny Brito, which, I guess you understand a little more too, because there's
Yeah.
an aspect of beginner's luck and there's also an aspect of limited analytics and limited video information for these hitters who are facing a guy in a new league. But Clark came out, he really didn't look very good. It seems like as a lefty, lefty hitters just love standing in against him. He was clipped by both Jock and by Brandon Crawford for the only 2 home runs the Giants hit this series, and for really most of the runs the Giants scored this series. Michael King also gave up 2 runs. I think he actually looked pretty good. He didn't look bad. Um, what concerned me about King when I went and watched this game back, because especially at this point I wasn't watching because we were playing. Um, he got a bit unlucky for sure. He had that Volpe twist up. He had some dunks that kind of just fell. But his velocity was down, and coming off of the injury, he was down about an average of 2 miles per hour on his fastball, below where he sat last year. So that's of a concern for me. But he was hitting spots, and I think that velocity might just make the difference where it's guys that were missing or hitting it into the ground last year, 2 miles per hour less, they're able to hit that ball 100 feet, or they're able to get it a little bit more on the barrel, even if it's not fully barrel, it's a bit of a jam shot, difference between a broken bat and some decent exit velo off of that. So I think Clay Holmes didn't look great. It's not a great path. Clark Schmidt, three and third innings to Wandy to King to Abreu, who went 2 full innings. Abreu got the job done. I didn't love how he looked either. He got did he get any strikeouts? I don't see it listed. Oh yeah, he got a few strikeouts. He got 3 strikeouts. So
He's got strikeout stuff is the thing. It's just like he's very erratic in the zone or around the zone. Sometimes it's conveniently wild, sometimes it's just wild,
yeah.
so I think that's always been the biggest knock on him is like the stuff has always been there. He's going to get you up to 99, 100 on that fastball with ride. But if you can't locate it, then you're going to kind of get eaten alive in the MLB. And Clay Holmes at his worst runs into that problem, but Clay Holmes at his best, which we saw in the next series, we'll allude to later, looked fantastic. So it's the duality of a volatile relief market is kind of what you're looking at. So you just have to live with some of those early finding your footing pains, if you want to put it that way. Like I think these are things that you can get straightened out after like a month into the season. But we have seen relievers start off slow and then work their way up mid-season. So I'm not too concerned with those results as of right now. As long as everyone stays healthy and there aren't any underlying injuries, that's the big thing for me.
Yep, I'm definitely not concerned about the player performance that much or the showing that they had. But what this is going to have to be is an understanding of what Clark Schmidt is, I think. This obviously isn't his high end. He can give better, but he's a typical five starter in baseball if he's going to be that five starter. And it just happened to come on game 2 because of how our injuries and rehab came back. I saw Nestor in the 4th game of the year for super cheap because no one thought he'd be throwing game 4. So, um, yeah, like I and to be honest, the Yankees offense had a good showing. Judge 3-hit day. Volpe got his first 2 hits in the bigs. A bunch of homers. Stanton went yard to right. Donaldson found left field. DJ looked pretty good. And they were mounting a comeback at the end. Minus an inch or two here on either of the bags on that last double play that Stanton hit into. We're looking at a 1-run game with the heart of the lineup still coming up. And Stanton, even if a ball squeezed through, he could have tied the game or won the game on that swing. So it's kind of how it goes. I think the Yankees will probably win about 40-50% of these games if they play like this. But the main thing is that the offense is going to have to show up, which it has been doing, especially carried by our top end hitters and even some of the bottom of the lineup hitters that are getting on base, like Trevino and Volpe. Even though with low batting averages, they're still doing their part down there. So not too concerned about this game too. But what I really was happy about was that Sunday day game with some burrito magic. What do you think of Johnny Burrito?
I love him. He's kind of everything we could have asked for as someone to replace. Like I honestly see him as the perfect Frankie Montas replacement in terms of stuff. It seems like a very similar kind of profile. Sitting 97, sometimes 98 with the fastball. It's a sneaky quick velo for a guy that's supposed to be a weak contact dude. But yeah, he's 97 with the 2-seamer, 4-seamer up. He has zero fear going against big league bats, which makes me really excited about him because you can tell that nothing was going to phase him no matter what he did, no matter who he was facing, he was ready to go. He was getting ahead in counts, which is even something that like I mean, I'm the biggest Garrett Cole advocate at this point, but you can't even always say that about Cole. Like he always has these deeper worked counts where it's like 2-0 and then he fights his way back and strikes the guy out. Or it's like 1-0 and then it's a 3-2 battle at the end of the day. You don't see a lot of that with Brito in that first outing. It was just very straight to the point. I'm going to throw strikes. You're going to hit weak contact. I'm going to get out of these innings quickly. And that's what we saw out of him. It's everything you could have asked for a pitcher's debut, especially filling in the shoes of some bigger pitchers that are on the IL right now. Like that is, if he can provide that every fifth day, I'm ecstatic. And then also we'll definitely see some bullpen games in there to supplement, but I I have zero complaints with the way that he pitched.
Yeah, 5 good innings from Brito. Only 2 hits, 1 walk. I mean, no earned runs. That's about as great as you're looking for from a minor league call up, which is what he is. And even after the game, he was sent right back down where he came from, and hopefully we'll see him up with this team. Because I think even putting injury potential aside, um, he probably has a higher ceiling right now than Domingo and Clark. But it's really that floor. We'll see what happens when teams get more information on him. He had a 50% whiff rate on the changeup, and that is, and that was his most thrown pitch, like 28 pitches, 20 of the 28 changeups that he threw, he got 14 whiffs. And
Yeah.
you look for starters to get 14 swing and misses in an entire game. He got it on a pitch that he only threw 40% of the time. Only, well, I mean, 35% of the time in his start. Only threw 75 pitches, 14 whiffs on that one changeup. Like the Yankees tend to do, throw the good pitch, throw the pitch you're comfortable with, and come up and get a feel for it and be dominant. Really fun to see. I wasn't able to watch a lot of this game live, but seeing the highlights of him basically just mowing through every hitter. I mean, he only faced 18 batters. Probably Yankees had him on the hook to go like a Clark Schmidt, like 3 1/3, 3 to 4 innings, and he went through 5 because he was clean, only 2 hits and a walk. About as good as you can ask for on a Sunday afternoon in which the Yankees brought the sticks again.
Mm-hmm. No, I've never seen a young pitcher with the ability to throw as many changeups in a row for strikes as he did. That's immediately what stood out to me, just because the circle change is such a hard grip to master in the first place. It's so feel based that you have to really know like confidently how the ball is going to move off your fingertips when you pronate. He was throwing that thing like it was his fastball, and he was getting results every single time. And I texted you at one point. I said Brito's changeup looks good, his fastball looks good. He still needs one more pitch. And then in the third or fourth inning, he breaks out his curveball, and I'm like, well, there you go. That was my only critique, and it's gone now. So if he can really hone in on that as well, because the changeup and the curveball are going to be going opposite directions, you're in for an exciting time. But yeah, the offense absolutely exploded. We saw quite a few home runs, if I recall. But and then also was that when we saw IKF in center field, or was that in Phillies?
Yeah, IKF started in center field that game.
Yeah, and he looked great. Like he looks very smooth out there, and he looks even more natural as an outfielder than he does in like the middle infield. Or even at third base. Like we saw him at third base today, and he looks really nice. But I think everyone has to be impressed with what they saw out of him and his ability to adapt and understand the situation, that this was the only chance he was going to get to be able to play some solid, just any kind of game time for the Yankees at this rate, just because they had so much of an excess in the infield. We'll see how that Donaldson injury changes things. But I mean, I feel at this rate, like I'm not hesitant throwing him out in center field. That granted, he hasn't really been tested too much with any like crazy difficult plays. Everything has, for the most part, been right in front of him. I would like to see a few more tough wall balls and things like that, just to see how he gauges those. But at the same time, he's a better option than Hicks right now, and I never thought I'd be saying that last year.
And he gets confident jumps. Like you don't see that for infielders a lot of the time, because when you go your whole life playing the infield, the ball comes off the bat differently. Like you're getting pop-ups, you're not being as rangy, you're not as inclined to, when the ball's in the air, to run at it, right? Because the ball's playing you a lot of the time in the infield. In the
Yeah.
outfield, sometimes you have to like make that confident 2, 3 steps towards the ball to have a chance, especially on a major league level when these guys are hitting the ball from 90 to 110 miles an hour in the gaps in the outfield, in which Yankee Stadium, there's a lot of room, and he was roaming it really well. So yeah, I liked him out there. It's cool to see. I mean, obviously he's a natural athlete. Max Manis, who's a stats guy for John Boy Media, I follow him. He's a decent follow on Twitter. If
Yeah.
you want to follow some live tweeting throughout the game, but he tweeted today. I think Yankees fans would unanimously love IKF if he wasn't presented as the option, if he wasn't forced to being the option at shortstop for a year when there was the chance at Correa, Seager, and past years, because the versatility that he provides, and you alluded to his good play at third base in today's game, and in center field, and backup shortstop, backup second base, contact bat off the bench. Um, Really nice to see. So go IKF. Um, if that's if that's a guy who gets a lot of center field play and he hits decently, and you know Judge is still in the lineup in right field, and we're able to protect him and get Stanton DH time, I think that it's a pretty solid option while we're waiting for Bader to come back. But yeah, you said in this game a bunch of homers. Judge had his worst game of the series, 1 for 4 with a homer. Giancarlo
That is
Stanton hit a ball to, I don't even, to Westchester, maybe Connecticut even.
at least,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Higgy went yard. Volpe got another steal. Glaber got a steal. Rizzo got thrown out. Should probably stop running. Uh,
The intervention's necessary at this point.
yeah, what was on Boone's interview with the Talking Yanks? Yeah,
Yeah.
they went, oh, do we need to give Rizzo an intervention? And Boone was like, yeah, please do. That's not something that I can talk to him about, which
That's so
is,
weird. That makes it so much funnier that he's just running.
yeah, on his own accord. And
Yeah.
Rizzo's very interesting. This is probably the third or fourth time I brought it up. My girlfriend loves him because he has like very like obvious and prototypical ADHD, but he has so much fun with it like on the field. So you can see like Rizzo go and like focus on something and make a play, and then if it goes against them, he's really upset. Like he
Yeah.
swung at a silly ball 4 today, and afterwards he was like, wow, like what, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Um but yeah, it's funny. I mean, he has a great, feel for baseball. But he's just getting a little bit older. Probably doesn't have as great of a feel for his body anymore. He was never fast, but he's getting slower, which doesn't help his case right now.
I mean, if it makes him feel any better, I swung at like an 88-mile-an-hour cutter against Cats that was in on my hands and like nearly sawed my thumb off. So we're pretty much the same player.
Exactly. Exactly. So the Yankees came out with a good series victory over the Giants to start the year. Um, And then they went into Monday against the Phillies, and I was there. That was another fun one. I mean, uh, Nestor with a really solid start, just mowing through that Phillies lineup, and some offensive, firepower. Glaber Torres again, uh, 2-run homer. Was he hitting in the middle of the lineup this game?
I feel like he was.
He was hitting fifth. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
hitting fifth. Yeah, he goes yard in the first inning. Um, Oh no, that was later in the game. And in the first inning, that was when DJ hit the single to center and Brandon Marsh was allergic to the baseball. Uh, Let him get 3 bases. How'd you feel watching this game?
Well, first of all, that was actually a triple, based off of the scoring. So
Really? In the stadium, they gave him a single and an error. Yeah,
that
I'm
was
looking at it
the
now. It's a triple.
yeah, that was the initial scoring, and then 2 innings later they changed it. So I don't know what compelled them to, but they
That's
completely.
that's awful. Let me tell you, as someone who enjoys playing center field and plays a lot of center field, that's like that's an awful play. Like that's a play I would get upset with a 12-year-old for making. Like
You
there
stay back on that one every day, right? Like that's just like wait for that to come to you.
you so one you stay back on it as a leadoff hitter in the first inning, definitely.
Yeah.
With Aaron Judge coming up, the middle of the lineup coming up, you're not putting a runner on third base at trying to get a hard hit out with high backspin off of DJ.
Yeah.
So one, you stay back on that in that situation. If it's a different situation and you're really making a break for it and you think you can get it, the moment you realize you can't get it, which Marsh should have realized about halfway through, because you commit and then there's a time where you commit and you're upright, you have to hit the deck. Like you have to slide
Yeah.
and body that ball. Because at worst it hits off of you and it's a double in front of you, or DJ's making a choice to run the second.
Yeah.
Um, you can't just stay standing and stick your glove down and hope that something happens, because if it's 408 to center, and if Anthony Volpe hit that ball, he's scoring,
That's
you
an
know?
inside. Volpe, Bader, both of those guys. Even Glaber, the way that he's swiping bags right now, I think that's four. Like that's a fatal mistake to make so early in a game, and it kind of set the tone for the rest of the 9 innings. Want to talk a little bit about Frenchie Cordero and the way that he played out in right field?
Yeah, I was right near Franchi. I had my seats in the right field like foul area. I liked how he patrolled out there. I mean, he has a really good arm, which is something that we profile very well, and I like him being in there. You know, if Judge plays center field or they give Judge an off day or a DH day, him playing in right field seems like a really good fit, because that arm is just so lethal, and he has the similar play to Judge, in which you hit a ball into the corner. That wasn't in this game? He threw someone out. That was in a later game
Well,
where he
wasn't it the
went out the
Nestor?
corner.
Nestor started this game, right?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, he threw someone out straight at second base today.
Yep.
But he overthrew home plate in this game.
Oh
And
yeah, that was fun. That was a fun play.
yeah, yeah, Nestor just so happened to be backing up the catcher as he should be as the cut four backup. So that circumstantially just ended up in the perfect position for Nestor to fire the ball back to third base and have a quick swipe tag for an out. Got really lucky there. But he his body wise in the way that he throws and everything about his arm reminds me a lot about like Yasiel Puig is the first
Yep.
kind of um first comparison that my brain immediately went to with him. I'm excited about him. I think that he had that gapper and the double in the right center gap to really like kick off his hitting debut for the Yankees. He's had a few weak contact ABs since that point, but like he still looks pretty good there, and he's an exciting young player. I see minimal downside having him out there from what I've seen so far, as long as he's not airmailing the ball. I think that's the big thing for him. Keep the throws a little bit under control. But yeah, Nestor looked great this game. Did he go 5 or 6 innings?
Nestor went 5.
Yeah,
Yeah, worked pretty well. He gave up 7 hits. Like they got to him a little bit, and the Yankees made some good plays, and Nestor worked out of a few things. Yeah, Nestor fought through the 5 innings. I thought it was a good decision to take him out when they did. I mean, he's always electric. He had a few coverages of first that were great. You mentioned the backup of the Franchi overthrow. That was an awesome play by Nestor, and the confidence to uh, pick Marsh off, which I don't want this to be a Brandon Marsh hate podcast right now,
not
but
having a
what is he doing, man? Like I'm almost getting PTSD from like me learning how to play baseball on 90-foot bases from like travel coaches at 12 and 13. Someone who
yeah,
played center field and ran the bases a lot. Because the overthrow came, Nestor caught it, and Marsh is like looking over his shoulder,
yeah.
not getting back to third. Like that, like that's not Marsh's job. I guess he was looking to see if there's an overthrow, but at that point, like once you hold up,
He
he's
was
held up. Like you're not scoring.
and he had like zero momentum going back to the bag, so we had to completely restart his momentum just to try to get back in time. And then I think he ended up getting hurt a little bit, like banged up
Yeah.
on that same slide.
Yeah, he had no business peeking, and then Nestor caught it. And Nestor, being the athletic and very aware player that he is on the field, the moment he saw Marsh didn't have 2 feet on the base, he backpicked, and he was confident in his throw, and he got there. And so that was a great job by Nestor. I mean, you wish to see a better throw from Franchi, but the threat of his arm enough held Marsh at third and the base coach. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, that was an awesome play.
yeah. Nestor's like an agile puma, and Marsh is more like an injured otter. I don't know.
Yeah. The the rumor is that Marsh and his agent were working on a deal with Gillette, but then Dave Dombrowski called last year. Well, and he got traded, and he hasn't shaved. He hasn't shaved since.
Is that true?
No, not at all.
Oh, man. I mean, like it's one of those things. Like I would not put it past him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he looks decent. Whatever, it works for him. But he had a tough day, so it was easy to
Maybe,
make fun of.
maybe he
But
couldn't turn his head too quick because the density of the beard kept him.
so relieving Nestor was the the now somewhat famous Ian Hamilton, throwing his what are they're calling it, the slambia, the
Lambia,
slurve,
yeah.
which is basically for those who don't know the lingo of it, it's basically a slider changeup combination, and a changeup is referred to in Spanish as cambio, which is generally what's used in clubhouses and bullpens to refer to changeup. So it's like the slider changeup combination. It's like a slurve being a slider curveball. The slampio is the slide change, and it's interesting because I think he holds it like a changeup,
Yeah, and
and
I
you
think,
can see that out of the hand too.
but he rather than pronates, he supinates, so he's coming around it like a slider. So that's like the only difference, really. Um, it's funky. It's very funky, just because you expect it to drop out one way and it ends up going the other way. It goes more glove side than arm side. So it's a weapon, and it's apparently something that's being taught a little bit more recently. However, he said that he's been throwing it since high school, and I'll take his word for it because he is a terrifying looking dude. But yeah, I think that he's a nice addition to this pen just because he has a little bit of pro experience. He has a cool story. Worked his way back to the majors, and like his fastball sits in, what, 94, 95, maybe 96 at times. But then he's got that slambio, and it looks good. I mean, I think he's the type of arm that you kind of need to throw in there that's a little bit more low key. Might be the quiet dude in the pen, as opposed to like a Tommy Canley type. But I think he's going to get the job done a lot, and he might be like the similar pickup to like last year or 2 years ago as Litke, if you want to think of it that way. Yeah,
Yeah, it was cool to see. He put in a nice performance. I mean, the Giants really didn't put up a fight against any of the relievers, nor much of a fight against Nestor, though they did slap some hits on him early. And it was a nice, fun, quick victory, comprehensive. Uh, Being at the stadium, you felt like the top of the lineup was really, really good and really deep. I think part of that is Donaldson not being there.
yeah,
1 through 5, DJ, Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, Glaber, and even Franchy. When Franchy came in and gave that double, and hit that double, it was like, wow, like it doesn't stop really. It's a barrage, because Franchy is where you kind of take your breath, but Franchy can hit the ball 115 off of you, so you have to be careful. So I
yeah,
kind of like that balance there. Um, you know, Stanton did not have a hit, but he worked some walks. He seemed pretty dangerous, and Rizzo hit a tank. Judge had a one hit, one walk day, and Glaber did his thing as per usual. Glaber was really impactful. He got on base 5 times in this game. He 2 hits and 3 walks. You could not get him out. DJ started at third. So I really like that all the way through. And I think that kind of exasperated
exasperated,
the feeling,
exacerbated, yeah,
exacerbated the feeling
exacerbated,
about Hicks.
yeah,
Have I said it wrong 4 times?
yes, it's exacerbated.
Exacerbated.
Yeah, there you go.
Um, yeah, it exacerbated the feeling about Hicks because the top six were putting in good shifts, and Hicks was coming up and not really giving competitive at bats. Uh, but then even Trevino came and sandwiched Hicks by having 2 hits in this game. He had an RBI, and Volpe worked another 2 walk game. So like the Yankees lineup seemed really balanced. It was the most comfortable I felt. Um, Honestly, this team, you switch out Hicks for Oswaldo, who came in as a defensive replacement in the end. And this might be my favorite version that the Yankees can play on the field with, DJ at third, Glaber at second, Stanton DHing, and you go Oswaldo, Judge, Franchy. And we'll see more from Franchy because we haven't seen a lot out of him. And obviously there's bias from him getting that double and looking good in this specific game and not so much in the following games.
Yeah.
But Yeah, without Donaldson and removing Hicks, I think the lack of threat kind of is taken out of the lineup, and it feels like a bit more of a barrage.
Hmm. No, for sure. And I think that kind of leads us into the worst lineup that we saw, which was yesterday's.
Oh yeah,
Um, do you have that pulled up, or I mean, it was bad just
I
because
do. Yeah, so we had I texted you yesterday. We had our worst hitting third baseman, our worst hitting left fielder, our worst hitting catcher, and our worst hitting center fielder, all hitting back to back in the lineup. And then, I mean, you could say, well, and then DJ played first. So
yeah,
DJ's a great hitter, but you're taking out the first base power, um,
and a lefty bat.
and the lefty bat. And they were facing the lefty, but still, I mean, it felt like DJ, Judge were the only ones and Glaber were the only ones really threatening in this game. And then Stanton didn't have a great day, and Donaldson, Hicks, IKF, Higgy did not look good in this game. And Volpe got a hit, but Volpe also didn't look great. And he's a person who's going to be highlighted if there's an absence of offense ahead of him to
Yeah.
start something up, to do a lot himself. He's not there yet. He's not a leadoff hitter all-star yet because he's played 6 major league games. So yeah, it felt bad. And then behind Domingo, who just didn't look great either. I don't know. This was a very meh game, a bit of a stinker.
Like he struck out a decent amount of guys, but there's something about like him as a pitcher that just isn't entertaining to watch at all. Like it's not a fun watch, even when he's good. It's just like there's a decent amount of soft contact. He throws a decent velocity. Curveball's his best pitch, but like you have to be able to get to the curveball. There's like a lot of discrepancies I have with like him as a pitcher as a whole. And I, from the first inning of the game, never had a good feeling about the outcome.
Well, it
Just
doesn't
because,
help when Schwarber goes 450 to the bleachers in the first inning.
yeah, man. The thing is, it wasn't even like a 3-run blaster. It wasn't like multiple hits stringed up with a 3-run blaster, a 2-run blast, and a run driven in, 2 runs driven in. It was one home run, and like that's something that you can come back from. However, this lineup was such a stale kind of one-dimensional, outlook that you really don't have any other chances within the lineup to other than the top of the order to get something done. And every inning, you can just kind of feel it was like getting closer to the end. Like there was never that chance for them to really break through until what, maybe the ninth inning. And at that point, it's like you have 3 outs. So what are you going to do? DJ LeMahieu hits that solo shot in the bottom of the ninth. And from that point on, it was just like, all right, that's all the production we're getting today. So
Yeah, I'm not even too mad at the pitching, honestly, because Domingo is Domingo. He's very pedestrian. He's a 4 starter. Ideally he's fighting for a fifth or sixth spot in our rotation when we're healthy, right? So, um, for him to go 4 and give up 4 runs, like it's not what you're looking for. You're gonna get some of that, but against this Phillies lineup, to limit them on a whole, with especially when you're throwing. I mean, King is great, but rehabbing from injury. Albert Abreu went 2 innings, and Jimmy Cordero, we don't really know what he is. For Domingo to King to Abreu to Cordero to only give up 4 runs, 2 of those being a home run to Kyle Schwarber. Okay, that'll always happen. And a
Brandon
base
Marsh.
knock from Trey Turner, and then you give up one to Marsh. 4 runs from the National League champion Phillies are like on your 4 or 5 starter day, you chalk that up as like, okay, I think we have a good shot at winning today.
Yeah.
Um, but the bats didn't come, and I think it's um not to overreact, but I think the Yankees have to be cognizant when they're doing their rotations that are determined by analytics that I agree with, that like you have 4 infielders who can play 3 positions, and they're going to rotate through, like that's fine. Like you need to get guys DH days and off days, but I think you need to see when you have certain situations come up, okay, this falls on Domingo's day. Like
Yeah.
what day do we need our A offense? What day do we need our B offense? And I don't think you play your C offense when you play your C pitching, because I don't think you're putting yourself in a good position to win. And then when you have the top of your lineup, underperform. I mean, Judge, I think this is the only hitless day of the season so far. Judge
I
goes
believe.
0 for 3 with a walk, 2 strikeouts. Um, and DJ doesn't get on until his homer in the ninth. So once you have the top of the lineup underperform with your C lineup out there, it's not a good equation.
Yeah. And do you think there was any chance that they knew that was going to happen too? Like they just wanted confirmation that this was indeed the worst lineup that they could possibly put out, like almost like a tester, just because like yesterday or 2 days ago we saw their best possible lineup. Do you think they were like, let's do the polar opposite of that just to see how these guys interact on the field together?
Like figure out the floor basically, because a
Yeah,
lot of these guys were playing. Actually, only two of them, only DJ and IKF were, I would say, out of position. But then
yeah,
you were playing the worst players, the position. I think it's a decent option. I mean, I don't know. That's a positive spin in favor of Boone.
yeah.
Boone
That's
getting the recommendations from the analytics team, and he's like, "Oh, you want to play this team? Like, I'll show you what this team looks like. This is the team you've given me." Um, so maybe. I mean, I don't know. I think early in the season they don't really look into it too much with like matching up specific hitters versus their own pitchers. I think it's very much matchup based and like against the opposing pitcher. And the Giants weren't throwing. I mean, Matt Strom is a lefty. They weren't throwing anyone in particular. They probably thought that DJ Judge, Glaber, Stanton are really good against lefties, and Donaldson as well historically, and Hicks. That's been his more favorite side recently. So they probably were expecting, okay, we're going to play our bad lineup, but we're putting them in a really good matchup for them in the best possible scenario. And then it just didn't work out because of the lack of talent and the lack of form, I think.
and then they had to put out another really good lineup today, so that way they win the rubber match.
Yeah.
So
Which I think
and
helped knowing that the game tomorrow is postponed as well.
yeah, for sure. I wonder if they knew that before game time. I know that it was announced officially like in the first or second inning, but who knows? They had to have had an idea that the weather wasn't going to be favorable tomorrow.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I guess we should move into game three then.
Yeah. I mean, game three, that was a good game today. I mean, it helps when you have Garrett Cole being Garrett Cole. I mean, it's tough to give him that run. Man, the earned run that he got. He has a .73
That's
ERA.
that's
He went 6 1/3 and he walked for context in the top of the seventh inning with 1 out. He walked a hitter on a pitch clock violation and then he was taken out. So then when Loizac came in, gave up the first pitch hit and then he walked the next guy, the sacrifice fly. Cole was on the hook for that runner at third, who he didn't even throw a fourth ball to because he and Chevy couldn't get on the same page. But
that
um,
visceral god damn it that he let out was like exactly what came out of my mouth at the same time while I was watching. I was like, God damn it. And I'd hear it like going through my fucking earphones. Um, he looks fantastic. I don't think we've seen Cole this dialed in to start a season. What he has 19 strikeouts through 12 in the third innings, I want to say.
yep.
Um, command overall looks a lot better. He's going after batters, not really cookie cutting and trying to, kind of teeter around the bottom of lineups. Like he's going right after dudes. And he still had 99 in the tank in that seventh inning, which like everything you wanted out of your ace, Cole is delivering on all cylinders. I think this is truly the season where he's going to put up a Cy Young year. Like this should be the year that he gets it done. He has a different kind of chip on his shoulder, from what I can tell. But in terms of the lineup, DJ came out pretty solid again. I think he had a couple hits, right? And then Glaber is just surreal. Like, I think he's hearing all that noise and criticism about him being the first one on the trade block and all that, and he's taking it to heart and he's hitting the hell out of the ball. I think he had hard contact every time he was up today, even with the broken bat RBI dunker. Like he put a good swing on a ball that was tough to hit. So he's doing everything you could ask out of him. And then on top of that, he's adding a whole different level of like speed and stolen bases to his mix where it's like I think him and Ricky Henderson and one more player like are in the history books for like the most hits, like I think runs and then stolen bases in the first week of this or first 5 games of the
I think it's
season.
like 5 5 and 5 or 4 4 and 4 or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's already got like two home runs and like OPS over like 1,500 too. So like the numbers are just out of this world. We'll see if he can keep that up. I think that we've also in the past alluded to the fact that Glaber is very susceptible to these really good hot streaks, and then he like wears off. But when he wears off, it's bad for about 6 weeks. So I think if he can avoid that dry spell, he could have a very special season. And I mean, we'll see what it does in terms of contract extension talks or anything, because the Yankees really do need to start taking that into account if they do plan on having him in the future, long-term conversations. Like that needs to start happening now, just because we're getting to the point where it's safe to say that if there are any other injuries to the starting rotation, or someone is, lagging in terms of their recovery time, we need to see potentially an arm get traded for, and or like at least another bat. I think at this point would also be beneficial. I mean, I still would love to get a Brian Reynolds type of player, but it feels like he might end up signing that extension, which really sucks. But at the same time, I get it because they are playing pretty well. He's also playing out of his mind.
Yep.
But I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation to look at when you're comparing Peraza and Torres, and what the dynamic of that infield looks like moving forward.
Do you still think we should ship him?
It's so tough. I mean, I don't think you can right now because he really is
He's been
producing.
like the second best player on the team.
He's the best player as of like right now too. That's the crazy thing, is like he currently is carrying the team offensively. He had what, 2 RBIs today, and so it counted for half of the runs.
Yep. He
Um,
won the game today, basically, he and Cole.
yeah. So I don't think you can trade him at this very moment, but I think midseason, if he does taper off a little bit, you see that happen ultimately. I think that it's only for the right package at this point. I think that all he's doing right now is either raising his value to be a Yankee or raising his value to be a trade piece, which is like that's two good things that come out of this top-notch performance, and then also wins, of course. But it's a weird situation. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. I think this solidifies my confidence that we should. And I know that he's a really valuable piece, and he's really good. Um, and he's been awesome for the team, and it's really not Glaber's fault, like I've iterated before. I think if we were just getting rid of someone for the sake of getting rid of someone, it would be Donaldson and Hicks. It would be done tomorrow. But there's salary ramifications, there's roster move ramifications, and there's holes and returns that you need to account for. Glaber is such a form player, such a confidence player. And even today, like I know he has 5 stolen bases. He had a really silly um
Yeah.
caught stealing today, and I think he's kind of just going for it. Which gives me pause because it's very much mental for Glaber, and as much as it's mental positively, and the last few Bleacher Creature roll calls, he's turned to the crowd and he's done what he did on opening day, like, hey, I want to hear you talk, talk, talk.
Yeah.
um he hears everything, and I think the moment that becomes negative, the moment he finds 4 or 5 games in which his timing is off, he's not finding his swing, I think that can turn really badly. So I think he's on a high value now. I know he can contribute really well for a team, but like you said, it's not just to get rid of Glaber. It's like Glaber is part of the deal for like a superstar or like a 1-2 level starter in like package, like that kind of
Or a
deal.
Burns type or an Eddie Cabrera or someone along those lines.
Yeah, it's Cabrera, it's Reynolds, it's Burns, even like a Woodruff, even.
Yeah.
Um, it's high level. So you're not giving Glaber away for free, because Glaber on our down days is our 3-4 hitter. And that's where I like seeing him. Um, yeah, I thought Cole had a great showing. I mean, the Yankees were kind of lucky to win today. I don't know if you saw it in, I forget what inning, but when Glaber had the first RBI when Judge scored. Was that the first inning that they scored?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
When Judge stole second, one, that ball was right down the middle. It was 0-2. That was strike three. And JT Realmuto was even like, what the
That
hell
was
was that?
yeah.
So Glaber shouldn't have even had the at bat to have. Also, the ball beat Judge there, and it was just mishandled. And then it was a shattered, broken bat. Barrel almost found the outfield before the ball did. and the Yankees score, but the Yankees were lucky to get that first one, and then Glaber had an awesome at bat to get the second one across, like a huge insurance run that proved, essential, and then Trevi came up with a bomb, another insurance run, a blast that also proved essential. So yeah, I think the Yankees bats put up 2 games in a row of um not cause for concern, but cause for pause, because they had been really going early on, and I think that's part of the rotation that they've been working on. But it helps when you have your number one.
Yep. And on top of that, I think we need to mention that Clay Holmes looked outstanding as
Awesome
the
today.
ninth inning. Like he struck out the side, and the sinker was sinking like it did in the middle of, or the early parts of last year as well. Just that bowling ball drop at 97. Uh, if he can keep that up, then I'm very happy and excited to see what the bullpen can do. But all in all, I do agree that they need to prove that they can find different ways to score runs other than just the long ball. And if it's going to be just a long ball, then they need to find more guys that can do that.
Exactly. Even in the 8-1 game, they only had two extra base hits that weren't home runs, and you would think it would be a lot more. And one of them was a single that they called a triple. Like it was just the Franchi double. The rest of them were a bunch of homers, and including some wall scrapers, except for Rizzo's. So
Oh, just like imagine how good Brian Reynolds would be at the top of that lineup.
yeah,
Just because he's a switch hitter who has pop from both sides and he's going to hit you close to 270 to 300. He's everything you can ask for out of a hitter, and he's kind of appeases the new school and old school thinkers. So
yep.
there aren't that many players like him on the market, unfortunately.
What percentage confidence do you have in him being traded in general?
It was, I want to say like a month ago, it was like 80%, and now it's down to like 40, maybe.
I think it's like
Um,
40 in general and like 15, 20 to the Yankees.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's going to be dictated by how well the Pirates continue to play. Like they just swept the Red Sox. I don't think he's going to get traded until, if he does get traded, until June, like maybe right before this the All-Star game.
And given how
Uh,
the Pirates are going, that might not be a good idea because they might be able to. I don't think they can, but at
yeah.
that point, numerically, they'll probably be within arm's reach of the playoffs at the very least, like that 6 seed.
Yeah, no, I just think that they need to bottom out in order for a trade to be back on the table.
Yep.
Because I think right now he sees promise out of that lineup because they are producing, and that could just be a hot streak to start the season, or it could be them actually building to something bigger. And I feel like that he's going to need to see which direction they're going in ultimately this season, whether he's going to want to be a Pirate long term. And if he makes it abundantly clear to them, listen, we're 10 games under right now, and we're nearly halfway through the season, or like a third of the way through the season, I think it's time to, find me a new home. But otherwise, I can see him easily signing a contract within the next month or two if they continue to roll. So
We'll see. Anything more you have on the games? I have a segment that I haven't spoken to you about. I want to bring up.
let's go with the segment. I have got nothing.
All right. I think to close out, this is something I want to do when we do our weekly or periodic reviews of the team. We're through 6 games, 2 series wins. This is Pinstripe Pulse. I think we should give out an award of sorts called the Yankees Heartbeat Award.
Okay.
Who's the heartbeat of the last week? Who was driving us to win these last few games. And Jake, I think you should start first.
It's tough because you could go with the pitcher, but the thing is they're not contributing every day. But there's one pitcher in particular that really kind of set the tone and then ended the tone for this week, and that was Cole. Um, I feel like I've got to go with Judge just because of the way that he set the tone with that, opening day leadoff home run. Just allow me to reintroduce myself. I am freaking Aaron Judge, and I just signed this massive contract, and I'm going to live up to it. He's got a 39 game, I think, on base streak at this point too. So like he's still contributing even when he is not hitting. And his numbers might not be like crazy like Labor's right now, but they're still really good. I think he's only going to get better with the season. He had a little bit of a slow start, I think the first week or two of last year, and I think he's only just going to get better. And he's always looked smooth in the outfield. He's the captain. There's really not too much that needs to be said about that.
He's hitting 412.
Yeah, there you go.
Glaber has him beat on base and slug, and it feels like Glaber is driving this whole team. Aaron Judge, the same number of homers, is hitting a batting average 100 points higher, and is just like 100 points in OPS lower. And through 6 games, that's meaningless. And Judge has had Judge is like the focal point. Judge is the player who won't get a good pitch an entire at bat because of a situation. He's been amazing. That's a really good pick. Uh, I'm gonna take who you teased. And sorry, Glaber, I'm gonna go Garrett Cole. I mean, Garrett Cole won 2 games for us. Opening day was not a blowout. Like, we only scored 5 runs that day. It felt like when Gleyber Torres hit the home run to put us up 3-0, it was out of reach because Garrett Cole was that on his game. He struck out 8 of the first 11 batters that he faced, including a 4-pitch walk to start the game. It was really unbelievable from Cole. He's gone in his first 2 starts, which I think in the past he threw no more than 10 innings in his first 2 starts of the year for the Yankees. He's gone 12 1/3. 1 earned run, and that earned run came with him not on the field, which we alluded to earlier. I think Cole has been the heartbeat. He's been similar to the playoffs last year, the division series, winning 2 of those games. He's been the reason we've won 2 of our first 6 games, and we're 2-2 in the games that Cole does not feature in. But that's why you get an ace. That's why we paid Garrett Cole a lot of money, and he's performing like it in not the best conditions so far, but yeah, I think he's been the heartbeat of this team.
Can't go wrong. I think we picked the right decisions, honestly. He's been so good. There's just not too much to really expand on that. Just his ability to blow batters by every time. Like, very few pitchers can do that. I mean, you've got like obviously some bullpen arms that are capable of striking out the side here and there, but when you're able to sit down and order top to bottom and do it 3 times over and just get better throughout the game, you've got something special. So I really hope Yankees fans are not taking this for granted, because we haven't had someone this dominant. And I wouldn't even say like CC in his prime, or CC as a prime Yankee was quite this dominant. CC maybe with the Brewers definitely had that half season where he was untouchable, but I think Cole is due for something special.
I agree. What impresses me every time with Cole is that teams come in knowing that Cole is the guy who's going to come in and beat us, right? And the book is out on him. I mean, he's been an elite starting pitcher going on his 7th year, I would say. Maybe 2015, or even if you go conservative, but 2017 until now. It's a long run of being a top 5 pitcher in his league. And the book's out on him, and there's not a lot of information out on some of these guys like Blake Sable, like Michael Conforto in the past year, Yastrzemski, and has had different approaches in the last year. So like, I don't know. Same thing with the Phillies lineup. I mean, there's so much information about him and how seemingly to beat him, and he just beats guys down. So yeah, Garrett Cole is my Yankees heartbeat. And I think Cole and Judge is a good week 1 to start. Good. I think Cole and Judge being our heartbeat in week 1, probably who we'll see the most often if we do this.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fairly respectable tandem to put up on a weekly basis at this point, just because Cole is going to give you a guaranteed 30 starts, 32 starts. So we're going to see more of him than any other pitcher. I mean, I could see definitely Rodon when he comes back winning a few heartbeats, just because he brings that fire. And it's going to be so much fun watching those 2 back-to-back days kind of internally compete and see who can have the best outing. I think they're just going to make each other better, and that's really exciting.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else before we get out? Anything on your radar for this Oriole series coming up?
The weather is probably the main thing. Hopefully we
Yep.
can get some clear skies for not tomorrow but Friday, and just keep an eye out for the pitching again. Do you know who's starting game one?
Game one for us. I mean,
Yeah.
Clark's in line, but now Friday we could burritos down. No idea. Let's say
Yeah.
let me check MLB.com. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, Grayson Rodriguez just came up for the Orioles and he put up a good showing, but I don't know if he'll be maybe Sunday. He'd be good for because with the off day in between. Did he throw yesterday or the day before?
I think yesterday, or well, he just got called up, so I want to say it was probably the day before then, so that way they give him proper rest. Either way, it's going to be that'll be exciting to actually get to witness him in action against MLB hitters. He's been very highly touted for a long time now, so it's always fun to watch one of those guys break through. Kind of reminds me of Hunter Green back in the day, being the guy to break through, and now we're seeing Hunter Green become a really good pitcher. So I'm expecting a few pitchers duels this weekend, and hopefully they can win another 2 out of 3. I think that's the big thing, is keep on winning the series.
Yeah, the Orioles aren't a guaranteed sweep anymore. The Orioles are a legitimate playoff contender. They put up a really good showing in Boston. They should have won all 3 games, and I think they ended up losing 2 out of 3 to the Red Sox. If you're in for some outfield pain, go watch the final inning of Red Sox Orioles from Saturday, in which the last out of the game was dropped and it led to a walk-off home run.
Yes.
A very quick and brutal turnaround, but Adley Rushman absolutely mashed in that series. I think he went 5 for 5 one game.
Yep. First game.
As a catcher, he's something. First game, opening day, God, he is special. So look for Adley, and Gunnar Henderson is another young prospect there you have playing, and Yankees killer Cedric Mullins as always, and that left field. We're gonna see on the Wooded Dong Twitter page, I've seen a bunch of times where, oh, this would be a home run in 29 out of 30 ballparks, except for Oriole Park at Camden Yards to left field. So,
Yeah.
yeah, looking forward to that. It's always a pretty place to play, and it's not quite the cakewalk that we expect, at least in previous years. So, look out for the Orioles. And yeah, anything else?
I think we just covered everything. Yep.
All right. So until then, we'll be doing some series or weekly reviews next week. Let's go Yankees. If you're down in Baltimore, or maybe you want to take an Amtrak down there, go see some games there. It's always a nice atmosphere at Camden Yards. But until then, follow us at Pinstripe Pulse Pod on Instagram and on TikTok, at Pinstripe_Pulse on Twitter. Subscribe on the YouTube, rate, listen, share on Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be talking to you guys soon. Peace.
Later.